2020, for the next 10 years, you're going to have to learn how to fight, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, and the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty unto the pulling down of strongholds. You're going to be at work giving God praise, and nobody's going to say, how in the world are they praising God in the midst of that? I dare you to keep fighting when you can't see it. I dare you to keep praising when it don't make sense to nobody else. I dare you to keep working when people says you got tricked. I didn't get tricked. I was tested. So I'm gonna fight. Can I get about 1,000 people to stand up on your feet and begin to fight and let the devil know what you meant for bad, God is turning around for my good. I don't see what you see. I see a blessing. I don't see what you see. God's gotta give me Rachel.
Governor Larry Hogan announces the first coronavirus death in Maryland.
Now to the coronavirus pandemic here in Maryland. Our state is closing in on 100,000 cases and nearly 3,500 deaths, but hospitalizations fell for the fourth day in a row now.
Our heart is for the health and the safety of the church, not just the physical church, but the church, both spiritually and physically. We all were waiting around 4 o'clock yesterday as Governor Hogan just made a mandate that there will be no gatherings over 250 people. And I actually believe in that. I believe that it's important for us to utilize wisdom. Coronavirus is real, and we want to not just adhere to the guidelines that the state has given us. We want to support that. So I encourage you to be supportive in this season. I encourage you to empathize. And we also are going to take some for real measures as a church. We're not going to go to church this Sunday. We're actually going to be the church. The first thing I thought about is COVID-19. Like, what in the world is COVID-19?
Yeah.
Like, we have never experienced anything like this. We've never heard that word before.
And I remember when COVID hit, it was like, you know, what's going on? Like, we've had all this momentum, all this stuff is building to be one of the greatest years in the history of our church, and things kept getting stopped.
We were in this COVID season where no one knew what it was. No one knew how it would impact. We hadn't lived, in this world, like we know now. There's certain things that we've gotten used to, but at the time, we didn't know what life was going to be like, being stuck at home. Could we go outside? Were we going to get arrested? If we came to church and we were driving home, were we going to get arrested? And all these things, were coming up.
So one of the challenges, I think, was just like creatively, like, how are we going to do this? We have new series, we have new talks. I remember we had the Rollins remix with Pastor Jimmy and Pastor Irene. Like, we would go on Instagram Live at their house, and creatively it was like we were sprinting. It was like we were constantly running, trying to like come up with these ideas. And it was like at some point we were working 60 hours a week, and then it might have been 80, but then at some point it might have been 40. It was just like all this chaos, but all I can remember is God is faithful, and God is in the midst of it.
Like in the beginning, God, He was created. There was a void, there was nothing. And so this limitation was gonna make us, it was gonna force us to be creative with vision, creative with mission, creative of how we're gonna love people, how we're gonna even show our Sunday services. What are we gonna do? Because at that time, online just wasn't awesome back then, because we had never had to just focus on how do we reach people, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so we just
the internet and social media platforms, that was our new church.
Absolutely. And so I love, even though this was uncertain and a little scary at times, what was amazing is how the presence of God could just be a reality through technology.
So once we started moving things to the lobby, it was kind of fun. I mean, the circumstances were terrible, but it was fun. Like, even though it's a global pandemic, I enjoyed being around my family, again, working together to make things happen. So I didn't look at it as like, oh, this is stressful. Like, oh, we're running around trying to make things happen. It was more so like, look at the family coming together to do things for like the kingdom, So it was pretty cool.
My top favorite, I'm gonna be completely honest. The Blessing is definitely the top favorite. Here's why. Because obviously, if we heard the song before, we have the verse, we have the chorus, it's great. But when we get to the event part, I'm the third generation for my family. So what that means, I have my grandfather, his name is Bishop James Nelson, the senior. My dad is the junior, and I'm the third. So when we get to that part, and your families and your families and your children and your children's children, when we get to that part, it hits home for me because I believe that it is going to not only just hit my generation, but the generation that I bring, that I'm gonna continue on. So when it continues about the legacy, that's all I think about is the legacy and how much God honors the legacy piece. So it's just, I don't know, the Blessing is definitely a top.
Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.
favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning, in the evening, and you're coming, and you're going, and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, 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 he is for you. We're singing amen, amen, we're singing may his favor be upon you and 1,000 generations, and your family, and your children, and their children, and their children. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you and within you. He is with you, he is with you in the morning, in the evening, when you're coming and you're going, and you're weeping and rejoicing. He is for you, 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 he is for you. We're singing amen, we're singing we're singing we're singing
Easter was like the first major thing that was like, Easter is going to be canceled, you know. And we brought back this song, Antidote.
There's an antidote. break. The earth groans and quakes of mistakes made by a man who didn't know the high stakes. Confusion, what's the solution? A critical condition, a symptom of spiritual pollution. Come on. It's crazy, young girls having babies, no daddy's there, cause their fathers didn't care. Mediocrity, widespread hypocrisy, humanity's idolatry. We need a remedy. Outrageous, deadly, contagious, we can't contain this. A battle rages in the high places. Genocide, children, they cry. Black and white's the bride. Preachers committing spiritual homicide. Where did their dream die? Churches weed out, they keep the sheep out. It's time to speak out, reach out, blow the walls out before the time's out. I got the antidote, I got the antidote, I got the antidote, I got the antidote.
I've got the antidote
to set you free, y'all.
You've been hated and
It's killing
you slowly.
There's a cure, his name is Jesus. He who the Son sets free is free indeed. It started all the way back in Genesis when the man was in the garden. Crazy how things got messed up. How did this happen to a man who started out free, now infected with disease? He's the one who needs the remedy. It's spreading fast, it's out of control. We gotta cure the host so he can be the antidote. Quarantine, all the people we see that once carried the message, now they carry disease. Eliminate it, we gotta hate it. Stop faking it, church. We've been contaminated. Here we go. So tell me why in this place we have no grace. I'm disgraced, can't show face. Now they scared, they run away. We don't have love from above, and I'm ashamed. So look at me, can't you see I'm the remedy? Been set free, I've been changed. Don't run away, I got the antidote, I got the antidote, I got the antidote.
I've got the antidote to
The antidote's gonna set you free. He who the Son sets free is free indeed. I got the cure for your disease. Y'all need to stop running from the church and stop running from me. Here it is, y'all. Here it is. I've got the antidote to set you free. Pain and agony is killing you slowly. I've got the cure for your disease. Stop running from me. Stop running from me. Stop running from the gospel. It came to set you free. If any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away, and behold, all things have become new. That's the cure, y'all. I got the antidote. I've got the antidote to set you free. Pain and agony is killing you slowly. I've got the cure for your disease.
Well, years ago, I thought I was a musician. I thought I was a singer. Maybe I was just in rebellion. But I was in a place years ago where it was like divinely discontent. And when I was in that state before we started this church, I just began to write. I began to write my words down, write my thoughts down, and really channel that frustration into like a revelation of what God, wanted me to be. It's crazy when I look back and I look at, the song Antidote. It was actually the vision of our church in the form of a song, in the form of, this urban rock band, called Locust Road, and so it was in this COVID craziness, like Easter's coming, and what did people need? There was no antidote, there was no remedy, there was no vaccine, and so that unearthed again, and that came up and I just began to think of those words, like there's been an outbreak, the earth groans and quakes of mistakes made by a man who didn't know the high stakes, things like that. And just me coming to an understanding that I don't have the antidote, I am the antidote. I am the tangible hands and feet of Jesus, and telling that story through the story of the leper, who no one wanted to touch. And here's the deal, like people don't have physical, leprosy, but they do have emotional leprosy. They do have, emotional leprosy. They have all of these things that they feel like that no one would touch them or no one wants to get close to them. And that's the power of that. And so on Easter, when we did the antidote, it was really cool to see all of the people come to Christ. And then churches got a hold of that and were like, hey, can you come do that at our church? So I also got to live, it was like the old game, rock band. I felt like I was back in the band. Let's go.
That's awesome.
We had this sermon series, campaign, what have you, where we were encouraging our church to be the hands and feet of Jesus in our community. The shift happened where if we weren't going to be able to have church in person on a Sunday, we were going to show our community the love and faithfulness of Jesus Christ. And so our homeless outreach, up until that point, was a monthly outreach. We had Serve Saturday, which was one Saturday a month where our team would go out and serve the homeless, serve food, provide showers, provide clothing, have a relational aspect of the ministry that we would do. And almost in an instant, we went to a weekly regimen of serving the homeless.
'Cause you're the only power that can save this world today. Jesus, you're the only power that can save this world today. You're the only power that can save this world today. You're the only power that can save this world today. Come on and lift your voice. Did anybody come to praise God today? Put your hands up. Let's go.
Soon the pandemic happened. Pastor Larry had allowed us to go to Brooklyn with the mobile shower unit. Yeah. And that was something that I was a part of when I first joined I-5. And while in Brooklyn, we was able to serve together, which was amazing from the start of the pandemic even up to this point. Yep. And to be able to serve with my wife under the prayer tent, and we were leading people to Christ together, people giving their life to the Lord, people getting delivered and set free. Yes. I mean, even this one couple, the husband came to us.
Oh, Adam.
Adam, his name is, and he wanted us to pray for him, and he gave his life to Christ.
How you doing? I'm Adam.
I'm Charles.
I came to I-5 like a month ago, and I was actually brought here through somebody who was already attending here, but good thing they brought me here because I ended up giving my life to God. Since I met I-5, this brother Charles right here been a major part of my life because I-5 got the resources, and y'all been a major support of my life, helped me come off the streets, keep my head clear. Then with you guys, make it easier for real. You know what I'm saying? Well, having this brother to call or talk to, or even to pray for me, it's great.
And the other thing is that's amazing that Adam, ever since he gave his life to the Lord 4 weeks ago, he been coming out here every week. He came to learn about the Word. He also came to let us know what's going on with his life so we can keep up with him. I've been staying in contact with him. The Lord blessed him from being homeless until now he has a 3-bedroom townhouse. God also blessed him and his wife with furniture through I-5 and food. We just really thank God for this opportunity to be a resource to this brother. And now today, the most amazing thing, he came to serve with us. And that's a blessing in itself. I mean, just to have him go from where he was 4 weeks ago to the Lord bless him with a place to live. Now he's out here serving with us. I mean, God is amazing.
Be the church became our MO. Like, yeah, we did online church. Yes, we still had worship on Sundays, but we really hit the ground running. We really put our foot on the gas when it came to outreach, when it came to reaching our community and being available to those who need care most. So yeah, Be the Church, when we made that switch, it was an incredible experience.
Well, as you know, 2020 started out as normal as any other year, but then it suddenly took a turn. We were in the middle of our indoor season, and suddenly everything just pretty much came to a halt and to a stop. We could no longer participate in any of the scheduled events that were either local or national. What we decided to do was conduct some Zoom classes or Zoom workouts, so to speak, to help, not only help the athletes and the kids stay in shape, but to also give the parents a break because they were going through a transition as well, which was homeschools. It was a string of emotions, and simply because this was new, this was foreign to everyone. And suddenly you were put in a position where you couldn't, you had nowhere to practice, you had nowhere to, all the facilities were closed down. And then there were whispers of meets that were happening across the country in pockets. But then there was concern because this thing was still very much unknown as far as how it affected you, who it affected, and how it was spread, that as a organization, we just didn't feel comfortable in putting our kids in certain situations, even if the season was able to restart. We really didn't feel comfortable getting them out there and putting them in that situation. So around June, we made an organizational decision just to totally stop everything, regardless of what happened at the national level, that we would just stop and not have a 2020 outdoor season.
And so I remember at the beginning of COVID really having a call, like around the country, youth pastors from around the country, Washington, Florida, New York, California, like what are you guys doing to connect with young people? What are you doing to connect with kids? And what does that look like? How do we take this thing that has been so focused on gathering in one place and make it cool enough for students to want to watch it online? And so we tried a couple different ideas in the beginning, and they went down in flames. Today is the official launch of our YouTube page. And we're gonna start our YouTube page off with this thing called Quarantine Question. I remember really feeling like we were struggling trying to connect with young people, and it really hurt my heart because that's my passion, and that's the passion of our church, it's a passion of our pastors, is the next generation. I felt like, man, what can we do to really interact with them? And so I love the team that we have at our church and all the young people we have really coming together. And we had some additions of people you haven't even met yet, but Richard and Juan, they're amazing people who came onto our staff right really as COVID started. And they just brought such an energy, such an enthusiasm to not only what we're doing in Next Gen and what we're doing with students and kids, but actually what we're doing as a church and how we're staying relatable as a church, and how we're gonna connect with different people. How can we put ourselves out there, put our best foot forward as a church and really connect with people who aren't just in our city, but now we have a brand new audience that's not just, Baltimore, Anne Arundel County, PG County. It's not just our counties anymore. It's countries. We're reaching people in Africa, and we're reaching people, who knows, and maybe in Antarctica. I don't know if they have Wi-Fi there or not, but it could be anywhere. And so we have this new audience. And how do we come up? How do we share Jesus on a global scale, because everything is looking so different?
Mother, mother, there's far too many of you crying. Brother, 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 there's far too many of you dying. You know we've gotta find a way to bring some loving here today. Oh, Father, Father, there's no need to escalate. War is not the answer. Only love can conquer hate. You know we've gotta find a way to bring some loving here today. Oh, pick your lines, pick your signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Oh, talk to me so you can see what's going on. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Investigators looking closely at surveillance video appearing to show the final moments of Ahmaud Arbery just before he was shot and killed.
Tonight, law enforcement is reviewing video appearing to show Ahmaud Arbery in the moments before he died.
Please don't shoot me, man. Don't shoot me, man. Please, man. I just lost my mom, man.
I remember watching the video of Ahmaud Arbery. You know, weeks later, we'd see the video of George Floyd. And it hit so close to home. Not only am I an African-American male, but I have children. And at that moment, I had to make a decision. It was time to go public with our vision for diversity. It was time to go public with, you know, standing up for racial injustice.
I don't know that this has ever been done before. We have 4 pastors from 4 different backgrounds, from 4 different churches, 4 different cities, and we're all talking with one voice today. We got Jimmy Rollins from I-5 City in Baltimore. We have Earl McClellan from Shoreline City in Dallas, and we have Chris Durso from Saints Church in New York City. I'm Jeremy with Hope City in Houston, Texas. And man, guys, I'm so honored to be with each of you.
And what I've come to find out with this whole listen, that people don't want to listen to our differences. And here's the thought that I have is simply this, that if you don't acknowledge my differences, you won't appreciate my experiences. And so if we don't acknowledge each other's differences, I don't believe that we can say, yes, your experience is different. And so I think in this thing of listening is, if we're gonna listen, let's listen not to respond, but let's listen to understand.
And it was also the very thing that created a sensitivity in me as to what even the most subtle forms of racism looks like, of which I saw part of my own family, that ultimately began my journey that I think is what God has used to bring about the most redemptive, beautiful picture. And you played a key role in that.
Pain has no color.
Hurt has no color. Caring has no color. All of these things were things that I felt as I watched the video about Ahmaud. And one of the things as a grandfather and a father, my concern was my grandsons jogged their neighborhoods.
So Jaden, tell them about the rules, the conversations that we have to have. Tell them how you're supposed to drive. Just go ahead and give them the conversations we have to have almost every time before you leave the house.
So before I leave the house, my dad always tells me to take off my hood, don't drive with my hood on, don't blast the music with the windows down, and just don't speed too much, and just be careful, cause it's a harsh reality. Me and my little sister have been driving before when I first got my license, and we almost got pulled over. Thank God we didn't, but we were blasting our music, and a cop came behind us and turned on his lights, and he stopped and let us go, but it's just scary, and it made me realize it's real, and when my dad tells me it's real, and so I just gotta trust the process and listen to him.
And we began to have conversations, and I think we never thought to have certain conversations, whether they were with friends that look like us or friends that don't look like us, where we were educating one another, expressing our feelings about what we were experiencing, and it brought tremendous healing. Mm-hmm. Did it solve the issue? No. Do we ever feel like we're gonna solve racial injustice? No. But as a church, we were able to get together for a common cause because the Bible specifically says what about the injustice.
To stand up for it.
To stand up for it. So that's what we did.
I know there is tension in our country, but when God-fearing, Holy Spirit-filled, Jesus-believers step up into a place, something changes. You white people do it this way. You black people do it this way. You Asian people do it this way. You Hispanic people do it this way. And Jesus says we've got to stop looking at what separates us and start finding what unites us. No more life lost. No more life lost. It starts with us. It starts with us. Now let's make some noise and celebrate.
Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, George Mann, Tamir Rice, Natasha McKenna, Alexia Christian, Stephon Clark, Botham John, Pamela Turner, Dominique Clayton, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd.
So when all the racial injustice, was really going, and we had our walk for justice, I remember having a phone call from my wife, and we were talking about the kids that we're gonna have in the future, and how the world for them was gonna look different. And she apologized to me. Excuse me. She apologized because she never knew what we faced. She never knew what it was like to grow up in a world where my dad has a conversation with me before I'm even 16, telling me how to interact with police, or growing up where I don't see police as someone who's gonna protect me, being fearful of law enforcement. She never knew those things.
it's one thing like to, you know, do outreach, be a part of the community aspect of what we do. To hear the numbers, you know, giving away over 450,000 pounds of food, you know, in the past few months, you know, things like that are amazing. Over 24,000 meals served. It's just to think about that happened, you know, almost out of nowhere, is amazing. But it's the individuals that really make this worthwhile.
My name is Danielle. I'm 30 and I live in Brooklyn Park.
My name is Darla and I'm 64-year-old single mom. I don't have any really immediate family. They've all passed and I've raised my 32-year-old son alone.
I came to I-5 in 2018. I had just moved here. I had just had a baby, my youngest, and I didn't have any money. I didn't know how I was going to pay my bills. We had a small amount of food. I didn't know what we were going to eat, but I had made up my mind that I was just going to trust God, that somehow He got me here. He's going to provide everything else I need.
In 2018, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I went to the emergency room because I was having difficulty breathing. So that's when, you know, they found that they gave me intravenous fluid medication. I can't think of the name of it, but to get the fluid off of me because I had a buildup of fluid.
Last September, I lost my job. I was working for Johns Hopkins. At the time, it was a toss-up between juggling daycare, transportation, and work and school for my oldest. So I got to a place where I wasn't able to pick my kids up on time from daycare because I didn't have a car. I was totally relying on public transportation to get me everywhere. And eventually the daycare provider got tired of having to hold the kids longer than she intended. And I wound up losing childcare.
Well, it's only been through the grace of God because there was many nights that, you know, I cried out to Him and I just didn't feel like I could go on. And I think it was because the depression that came along with it, because when I was younger, I was a real go-getter and always worked 2 jobs and was independent and did everything by myself. So then when I got, my health became an issue and I couldn't do the things that I did, you know, I just felt old and weary.
I got a rental and I had tried to hold on to it for as long as I possibly could, and I just couldn't afford it anymore. And I sat in the car in the parking lot at my job and I cried. Almost uncontrollably for an hour, because that had been the story of my life every single time I've gotten a job. Either transportation fell through or childcare fell through.
And I kind of like gave into it. And it was like one night the Lord just spoke to me and He told me, you have to press on. I did not bring you this far to let you go. And I know He's begun a good work in me, and He promised me that He would continue it.
I was down in the dumps for about 2 weeks after that. And then, you know, God gave me strength to get to the place where I could be like, God, I'm just gonna trust you through it, because there is not a lick of thing, not a thing my stress is gonna add to making the situation better.
The main thing is He's seen me through so many things. When in my weakest point, He gave me His strength. He was strong for me. And through my whole life, He has always been, I may not have been the widow, but He's been the husband to me. And He's been a father to my son.
So in the midst of all these things that I have to juggle, I find strength in God and seeing the beauty in the small moments, because it's a lot of small moments that make up the big moments, and if we forget to look at those, we'll overlook the blessings of God that are right in front of us.
I watch I-5 online, and I know Pastor Jimmy has spoken life into my heart many times. Come on, somebody. Isn't that what he says all the time? It's so cute.
For anybody out there who's struggling right now, whether it be emotional, mentally, physically, my advice to you is to lean into God. Try your best. Trust Him. He will give you everything that you need. Your worrying is not going to add anything to it. Believe me, it's only for a short amount of time, even though it feels like it's forever. God will provide. His timing is perfect. And I'm a living proof of that.
And I just want to encourage anyone out there that's going through struggles, or especially the single moms, because that's where my heart is with single moms. Because I know it has to be worse for them this day and age than when I was younger and a single mom. But that Jesus is the answer. And as I said, praise and worship. That's the answer.
I'm not the most amazing person out there. I'm just not. But God has been providing for me, and He can provide for you too. He's been providing for me physically, emotionally, and mentally for a very long time. Trust God. He'll do it.
Say, and that's a wrap.
We were in a staff meeting online in the Zoom, and Pastor Irene, she was walking one day, and the Holy Spirit reminded her about giving away cars. And she was like, her and Pastor Jimmy were like, we're gonna give away 2 cars for the food giveaway. And I was like, wow, like we get to serve this vision. And preparing for the food giveaway and just getting the communication ready and all of that. And then the 2 single women that received the cars, one of the girls, Danielle, she was someone that I met when I first visited I-5 City the summer of 2018. We connected at a serve in Brooklyn, and she was receiving groceries. The next year, I met her again on serve day, and I had moved here by this point. And then a year later, she gets gifted a car. And her story of just perseverance and always having faith and always just having the joy of Jesus, no matter what. Like, it was beautiful. It was such a testament. And I love that we get to be a part of that we get to impact our community. It was the highlight of my summer. It was a highlight of my year, because if I think about that, like, we gave away 2 cars. We don't, like, that's not normal, like, for, like, anyone. And between the food giveaways and just our mobile shower unit every Sunday being out in Brooklyn and bringing church to the streets, like, those are the things that I think of when I think of COVID and the pandemic. I don't think of me sitting at home. I don't think of the times that I was lonely or stressed out. I think of the impact that was made and the lives that have been touched, all because we were the church at the end of the day.
Can y'all make some noise for Jesus one time? Come on, I need you to make some noise like you've been in the house quarantined and you can't wait to get outside. Make some noise! This is a vision come true, not a dream come true.
Today really signifies who we are. We are an outreach powered by a church.
God does not make mistakes. He makes miracles. And nothing takes him by surprise. And so I'm excited that we are here gathered today. Could this be what the future church looks like? Could this be where we gather on a Sunday morning and be mobilized in the city, in the entire DMV? That video that we took of you was a setup, and I wanted to let you both know, I-5 City, we don't give to a church, we give through a church. And we want you to know that we want to be the tangible hands and feet of Jesus. So on the count of 3, we're going to say uncover that car, and we want you to know that your church went before you, and we got you in donating to you a brand new vehicle. 1, 2, 3, uncover that car! These cars are through a church. This event is through a church. And so today, it's gonna be amazing, but tonight is gonna be better when you lay your head on the pillow and you recognize that God chose you to team up with him to change the world. So I wanna thank you all. I want to thank Joyce Myers Ministries. Yes. I want to thank Hand of Hope. Yes. Come on, I want to thank the Anne Arundel County Police Department and the Anne Arundel County Public Services Department. Yes. I want to thank our amazing staff. I want to thank all of our team members. I want to thank our board. Come on, somebody. Yes. We're going to change the world. Today, I want to thank Lighthouse Church. Yes. Come on, somebody. The church is not a building. The church is not a place. The church is a people, a movement. Come on, somebody. The church has not been closed. The church has been commissioned to go out and change the world. And this is why we exist. So if we never go back in that building, may we build people outside of the 4 walls of the church.
So one thing I love about this year is that it was a big year for me.
Yes.
I celebrated 5 years of sobriety from alcoholism. Is the year of grace, and I feel like God's grace has been on me and on our family as we have been healed through my process of recovery, our process of recovery. And I think it's interesting that as we celebrate 5 years, we kind of started reflecting on all God's brought us through as a family, and we've been through a lot. And so someone would ask us, why, do you celebrate so publicly? One of the reasons why we're so open about our testimony of overcoming addiction in our family is because there are so many people out there suffering alone, suffering in silence, coming to church thinking that, this is the place that broken people are supposed to come. No perfect people allowed, imperfect people in the church. Well, we want to be that church. We want to be that place where people can feel safe, sharing their flaws with the understanding that we all need a savior. And that's why we come to church, is to grow. That's why we come to church, for support. And Maya Angelou has says that we're more alike than we are unalike. And I believe that there are so many of us who are struggling with some form of using, some form, whether it's substance addiction or processing or what have you. And so the church should be the place where people can come and share their story, not feel judged or shame, but where we can have be activated in steps to get well together.
That's right. God has proven through this season that he is faithful.
Yes.
Maybe not proven. Maybe we have stepped into the reality.
That's true.
That God is faithful. Mm-hmm. That God is a keeper. That God is a healer. Mm-hmm. We have seen the supernatural take place over 2020.
Yeah.
And here's the deal, I don't want us to get to 2021 and just turn the page and act like everything is going to be better. Mm-hmm. Everything could remain the same, but what did God do in us in 2020 that he actually wants to do through us in 2021?
Mm-hmm. Man makes plans, but God directs the footsteps. And I think that's a verse that's quoted a lot and used a lot, and people are like, we can plan all we want, but it's God who makes the final decision, and myself included. I used to say that all the time, but I think until you actually experience a season where it's like, man, my plans don't work. Everything that I had written out, laid out, it's garbage now because the world is completely different. And so I think what 2020 taught me most was trust. Trust in the promises of God, trust that He's faithful, trust that, even though it doesn't look like we're gonna make it through, that we're gonna make it through.
So one of the biggest things that I learned this year was to learn patience. The reason being is because I can always relate this to Job. Job is probably my favorite story of the Bible, because even though all the things happened to him, literally everything got taken away from him, his children, literally his whole family, everything that he owned, even his close friends was like turning on him, his wife was turning on, like everything bad, anything that's crazy to you that would be taken away and you'd be hurt, that's exactly what happened to Job. So I took that on, and I was really studying that throughout the whole quarantine, because he never lost his posture. Like, even though things was crazy, and even though things were really, really insane for his life and everything that he loved, it got stripped away instantly. And even though he knew that something was up, he just didn't know how to go about it, but he never lost his posture. He never lost his love for God. He never lost that. He always stayed at the feet of God, always. So that really helped me. And with that being said, he had to be patient, and because he didn't know that he was gonna get his stuff back. During the time, he just had to I trust God. I'm gonna still follow God. It don't matter what you do. So that takes a lot of maturity and patience. So I took that on, and literally when I, kind of went that route, everything started to come into place. I started playing here more often, then I started to come, and then God opened the door for me to being paid, and then it started being like every month. Now it's almost like every week. Like, everything started to happen only because I just kept Him first. And I was just like, well, you in control now, I can't do nothing. When everything was stripped, we're not in control anymore. It's all to Him. So I have to have patience now.
When we go all the way back to that word focus, what did we have to focus on that we can take our eyes off of in 2021 to actually focus on something else in 2021? I start thinking about that. I start thinking about all of the people that God's called us to reach. I start thinking about all of the things that God has called us to do, all the churches that are going to be coming together because of COVID, the craziness of COVID, to expand the kingdom and extend our reach. 2020 has not only been a healer, it's also been a revealer.
Yeah.
It's revealed who's with us. It's revealed who's for us. It's revealed that the Holy Spirit is with us and in us and redeems us and sustains us. It's so easy to look at our lack and what we don't have. But let's take a moment to focus on what we do have. Family.
Family, that's right. And our church family has really been where God has made evident His grace, His mercy, His faithfulness, because it's through the church family that the world, the people that we've been called to impact and minister to, they have been able to meet God, meet Jesus, get their needs met through the faithfulness and generosity of the people in the church. So during this, crazy 2020 season, I just want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
We want to say thank you to the people of I-5 who have prayed and stood on the wall praying with us, who have been out there in the streets ministering to people, who have been in small groups on Zoom calls, helping us lead in communities together to bring healing and connection at times when people were isolated and feeling alone and lonely. The faithfulness of God's people has been so evident in I-5 City. So just thank you. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for being a part of the vision. And thank you for not allowing the circumstances of COVID-19 to stop us from loving on people and serving God's people.
We used to sing a song in old school church, "The best is yet to come."
Yeah.
And it was more of a song than it was a declaration. And what I love about this season, it allows us to get filled with expectation again. It allows us to get the expectation that the best is yet to come, because right now just won't do. So I want to encourage our church. I want to encourage whoever sees this to look back over 2020 as we have, to go through the stories, lean into the moments, lean into those times of insecurities and those times of fear, when you thought you had more month than you had money, guess what? You made it.
Yeah.
They're at the end of this year. Everybody didn't make it, but we are still here. And we can remember those. Many of you have had loss in this season.
Yeah.
Many people in our church have experienced loss, whether it was the loss of a job or even the loss of a loved one. You know what the enemy can't take? Is a memory.
That's right.
Blessed are the memories of the righteous. And so I'm gonna remember this year, not as about COVID-19, but I'm gonna remember this year for the power of the local and a mobilized church. We weren't closed.
Yeah.
We were commissioned.
We were commissioned.
The Lord is my shepherd. I have all I need. He takes me to green meadows, and He walks with me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. Yeah. He walks with me, Lord. I see Your face upon the mountains, where my peace should be. I hear Your voice down in the valley. Oh, and He comforts me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. I have no fear. I have no fear. I have no fear, because He walks with me. You prepared a place for me, and You care for all my needs. Yes, You did. And when my life is through, I'll forever be with You. I'll forever be with You. Sing this together. So Your beauty and love will follow me all my days, for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. Your beauty and love will follow me all my days, for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. Your beauty and love will follow me all my days, for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. Your beauty and love follow me, Lord, for the rest of my life. For the rest of my life. Your beauty and love of my life. For the rest of my life. Your beauty and love will follow me all my days. For the rest of my life. For the rest of, come on. For the rest of my life. 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 Yeah. You're following me, God. You're following me into dark places.